Well, what is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Today on the table in front of us, we got something new from the folks at Kansept. Well, not super new. It's been around a little while. This is the Kansept Hellx. That's Hellx. This Willumsen design is probably one of my, in fact, it is my favorite Kansept knife, and I love Kansept knives. They have done amazing things this year. This, on the other hand, no, this is just a fantastic knife. Let's take a look at what you get, because it makes me really happy, and I'm hoping it makes you happy too. All right. You get a really cool looking knife, for starters. Now, I do want to point out that it is a bit of a tanto, and it has a little nub right here that makes it a tanto. That's not going to survive more than one or two good sharpenings, but I'll tell you something. I've used this at work a bunch of times, and I'm not sure what Kansept is doing to their S35VN, but I haven't even had to strop this thing. It holds an edge like crazy. So, you know, you may eventually lose this little tanto point, but you're not going to lose it right away, because you're not going to need to sharpen this thing unless you do some damage to the blade, in which case that qualifies as user error. And, you know, hey, look, so if you're careful with it, it'll be there for a while. It's a good size knife. I like big knives. You guys know that. This is one of those, right? It's very comfortable in hand. Let's take a look at what you get. So you start with 1, 2, 3 3/4 of cutting on, 3 3/4 overall of S35VN, as I mentioned. It is all titanium. It is a frame lock, as you can see. And it has a really nice setup. There is a steel lock bar insert that not only interfaces with the blade, but also acts as an over-travel stop, which is really very nice. And the action on this thing is so good. It's very snappy. The handle itself is oddly shaped, but very comfortable. Willumsen likes this kind of shape a lot. I've had a couple of his knives. This way, you don't really notice it so much, but when you use this really generous forward choil, your palm locks in, and it's jimped right here, so your palm locks in. This is such a natural position for this knife. Now, I don't know, what you do with it this way. I tend to hold it back here like this when I actually do long cuts. But if you do like to choke up on the knife, this thing is set up to do it really, really well. So where were we? Right, 3 3/4 of cutting on 3 3/4 of S35VN. The overall knife is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 inches, which is a really good size knife. The grip area from behind the flipper tab there, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 inches to the very tail. So it's 3 3/4 to the end of this swell right here. If you bring the choil into this, however, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 4 3/4. So it is right there. It is a good full-size knife. How full-size? Well, let's do some size comparisons just for fun. What do we have on the table? Well, we have our old friend, the Presidio 2. This is a full-size knife from Benchmade. As you can see, these are very similar in length, but you just get a little more of everything with the Kansept knife. And having used both of them at work, I can tell you that the Kansept is a better cutter. It comes down to a very nice edge because of how tall the blade is. The blade's a little over 1.5 inches. So by the time you get down to this really nice edge, it is very, very slicey. Here it is against the Mini Presidio 2, which of course is kind of an analog to the Bug Out in overall dimensions. Bug Out's a little smaller, but not much. So if you like the Bug Out and that's your size knife, then the Kansept Hellx here is not really going to be for you. But if you like bigger knives, it will be. And finally, here is the, the Ritter Hogue, which of course is very much like the classic Benchmade Griptilian. So if you like a full-size Griptilian, you will have seen this knife before. The Kansept gives you more cutting surface and a little more handle. It's just a slightly bigger knife, but of course you do get all that beautiful blade. I really like this thing. It's an absolute joy to carry, and one of the reasons for that is this fantastic pocket clip right here. Now, let's see if we can get that to show up. There we go. It has a really nice flat edge back here. There are no screws. It is buried down into the handle, so it's actually screwed in from the back side. This thing sits in the pocket beautifully. Now, it is wide, right? I mean, from edge to edge here, we're almost 2 inches, 1.75 inches. So it does eat up a fair amount of pocket space, but it's thin. It's not too heavy. And this pocket clip, as you can hear, tons of good snap, easy out of the pocket, in and out of the pocket. It just carries really well. This thing is milled in a really interesting way. So they blacked out the titanium. It is all titanium, by the way, including the backspacer. And then looks like they ground off to grind in these shapes into the titanium so that it's black, and then it's straightforward traditional titanium everywhere that they hit it with the grinder, which is just a really cool look. It does have a lanyard space back here, and a generous one at that, but it doesn't interfere with the flow of the knife, so I don't mind it at all, even though I don't generally lanyard. This is the way to do it if you're gonna, because it's just part of the tail of the knife. It doesn't interfere with anything. The flipper tab is not too big, and the way that it's positioned, I have yet to be able to fail this thing. Let's try again. Nope. Oh, apparently women carry knives can fail this. She just said so from the couch. I couldn't. But, you know, different hands have different experiences. You know, that's the way things go with the knife. It is on bearings, which has come to be expected at this point. In general, the fit and finish on this thing is fantastic. I do love the choil. I love the jimping across the top of the blade. Now, some Kansept knives have a lot of writing on them, just because the blades are smaller. This has got the Kansept logo. It says S35VN right there along that edge. And on this side, what does it say? It says Hellx, and then over here it actually has the serial number, and then it says Willumsen. Oh, no, sorry, it just says Willumsen along the edge right here. But they've managed to push it right up against the scales here, so it doesn't really show itself. The only thing on the blade that's really noticeable is the Kansept logo, which I'm fine with. So not a lot of billboarding, which is a very nice touch. Let's break out some tools here and see what we're actually working with. So we start at 3.5 millimeters of blade stock. It's got a little bit of flat, and then just a high flat grind comes down to, as I said, a very nice edge. Starting with reasonably thin stock, a knife this big often has up to 4 millimeters. So coming in below that, you start thin but not fragile thin, and then a nice tall blade means you get tons of room to come down to a really nice edge, and they have made the absolute most of it. So for those of you not doing millimeters, it's 140,000. The handle itself, at its thickest spot right through here, is just at a 1/2 inch. I can show up. There we go. A little bit over. Yeah, I'm not kidding, guys. This thing is really, really comfortable in hand. It's been a favorite of mine since it landed. Somebody was nice enough to loan it to me, and I'm making the most of it. It really is, I think, my favorite Kansept knife. Now, there are some other fantastic ones, but this one is right up my alley because of the size. So let's go ahead and weigh it. You know, that thing we do. All right. So 5.9 ounces. It is not a lightweight knife. But almost a 4-inch blade, 5.9 ounces. That's a pretty fair trade. It is solid titanium, as I said. It is milled, but I guess they could have milled a little more. Some of you are going to think that's too heavy. I do not. One more time, just for luck. Yeah, 5.9, which is 167 grams. So, you know, that's not that crazy. Let's see, what do we got here? Here is the DX2 by Alien Knives. And that is 5.2 ounces. The Ritter Hogue, 4.6. You know, it's right in there. An ounce here, an ounce there. Now, if you're backpacking, I suppose that makes a pretty big difference, but doesn't make that big of a difference for me. And I'll tell you, this pocket clip and the way this thing carries in the pocket makes whatever little bit of extra weight it's carrying just become irrelevant really quick. All of the edges are knocked down. So the only place that this thing is sharp is right where you want it to be, which is a really nice touch. I've had a number of Mikkel Willumsen designs, including some of his own stuff and other companies' sort of approach to his work. And still, this is not just my favorite concept, but probably my favorite Mikkel Willumsen knife brought to life. It is just an excellent pocket knife. Well, anyway, I guess that's where we're going to end it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the Kansept Hellx. I know I've enjoyed bringing it to you. If you have any questions about this knife or any of my knives, feel free to ask down in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. I would love to have you here on a regular basis. We'll see you next time.